Have you ever wondered how just a few simple words could survive for more than 1,000 years? Not a book, not a kingdom, not even an empire. Just 6 words. Words whispered by monks in quiet temples, carried by travelers across the Himalayas, written on ancient stones, printed on colorful flags that dance with the wind, repeated in moments of hope, of fear, and of peace. These 6 words have crossed mountains. They have crossed languages. They have crossed generations. Today they are spoken by millions of people around the world, from the snow-covered peaks of Tibet to the crowded streets of India, from peaceful monasteries in Bhutan to meditation centers in Europe and North America. Yet there is one remarkable question. If these words are so famous, why do so few people know what they truly mean? Are they simply a prayer, a sacred chant, a mysterious spell? Or are they something far greater, a message about the human heart itself? The 6 words are Om Mani Padme Hum. For more than 1,000 years, they have inspired pilgrims, monks, scholars, and ordinary people searching for peace. But their true story began long before they reached the mountains of Tibet. It began in the heart of ancient India. And that story is far more extraordinary than most people imagine. A teaching can remain hidden inside a book, but an idea can travel across the world. That is exactly what happened to Om Mani Padme Hum. Born in ancient India, these 6 words slowly began a journey unlike any other. They crossed rivers, they crossed deserts, and they crossed the towering Himalayan mountains. As Buddhism spread across Asia, the mantra traveled with monks, pilgrims, merchants, and scholars. It was not carried by armies. It was not spread by force. It traveled because people believed its message was worth sharing. No place embraced these 6 words more deeply than Tibet. For over 1,000 years, they became part of everyday life. People carved them into rocks beside mountain paths. These became known as Mani stones. Travelers would gently touch them as they passed, offering a quiet moment of respect. The mantra was also written on colorful prayer flags. As the wind moved across the mountains, many believed each flutter carried wishes for compassion and peace to every living being. Another tradition soon appeared, the prayer wheel. Inside each wheel were thousands, even millions, of copies of the same mantra. With every turn, people were reminded to pause, to breathe, and to return to compassion. Children learned it from their parents. Monks chanted it in monasteries. Pilgrims whispered it while walking for weeks through snow-covered mountain passes. It became more than words. It became part of daily life. Eventually, the journey continued beyond the Himalayas. The mantra reached Nepal, Bhutan, Mongolia, China, Korea, Japan, and in modern times, it traveled even farther. Today, people chant Om Mani Padme Hum in meditation centers across Europe, North America, Australia, and many other parts of the world. Not because they all share the same language, not because they all belong to the same culture, but because the search for peace is something every human being understands. From a small group of monks in ancient India to millions of voices around the world, the journey of these 6 words continues even today. But one question still remains. If so many people repeat this mantra, what does it actually mean? To answer that, we first need to understand the meaning hidden inside each word. Now we arrive at the question that has fascinated people for centuries. What does Om Mani Padme Hum actually mean? Surprisingly, there is no single, simple answer. For generations, scholars, monks, and spiritual teachers have offered different interpretations. Some explain the words literally. Others focus on their symbolic meaning. And many believe the deepest meaning is not something that can be translated, but something that must be experienced. The most widely known translation is the jewel in the lotus. At first, that may sound mysterious. Why a jewel? Why a lotus? To understand that, we need to understand how Buddhism uses symbols. Imagine a lotus flower. It begins its life in muddy water. Yet as it grows, it rises above the surface, clean, beautiful, and untouched by the mud below. For this reason, the lotus became a symbol of purity, not because it escaped the mud, but because it bloomed in the middle of it. The jewel carries another meaning. Across many Buddhist traditions, a jewel represents something precious: wisdom, compassion, and the awakened nature that already exists within every person. Put these two symbols together, and they tell a powerful story. Even in a world filled with confusion, fear, anger, and suffering, the human heart still has the ability to awaken, to grow with wisdom, to respond with compassion. That is why many Buddhist teachers explain this mantra not as a request for something outside ourselves, but as a reminder of what already exists within us. Another traditional interpretation expresses this idea in a different way. It can be understood as a heartfelt aspiration. May I awaken the same compassion and wisdom as Avalokiteshvara. In other words, the mantra is not asking for miracles. It is asking us to become better human beings, to be kinder, more patient, more understanding, more compassionate. Perhaps that is why these 6 words have never belonged to one country, one language, or one culture. Because every human being knows what it feels like to struggle, and every human being hopes to become something better. But the journey of this mantra does not end here, because each of its 6 syllables carries a meaning of its own. And together, they reveal an even deeper message. So far, we've explored where this mantra came from and why it spread across the world. But what about the 6 sounds themselves? Do they each have a meaning? The answer is yes, but perhaps not in the way many people expect. Unlike an ordinary sentence, a mantra is not meant to be translated word for word. Each syllable carries layers of meaning that have been explored by Buddhist teachers for centuries. Different traditions explain these sounds in different ways, yet they all point toward the same destination: the transformation of the human heart. Let's begin with the first syllable, Om. Across Indian spiritual traditions, Om is considered the sound of beginning. It symbolizes the universe, life, and the connection of body, speech, and mind. It reminds us to begin with awareness. The second syllable is Mani. Literally, it means jewel. But this is not an ordinary jewel. It represents compassion, the priceless wish to care for others, to help rather than harm, and to recognize the value of every living being. Next comes Padme, meaning lotus. The lotus grows from mud, yet rises above it without losing its beauty. For this reason, it became a symbol of wisdom. Not the wisdom found only in books, but the wisdom that grows through experience, patience, and understanding. Finally, there is Hum. This syllable represents unity. It is the moment when compassion and wisdom are no longer separate, but become part of the way we live. Knowing what is right and choosing to live by it. Many Buddhist traditions also teach that the 6 syllables represent the gradual purification of the mind. Rather than changing the world around us, they help transform the world within us. Little by little, fear becomes courage, anger becomes patience, selfishness becomes generosity, confusion becomes understanding. The mantra does not claim that change happens instantly. Instead, it reminds us that every journey begins with a single step, and every step begins within the mind. Perhaps that is why millions of people continue repeating these 6 ancient sounds. Not because the words themselves contain magic, but because they remind us of the person we are capable of becoming. And that leads to one final question. If this mantra is not about magic, then why do so many people believe it has extraordinary power? Throughout history, many people have believed that Om Mani Padme Hum possesses extraordinary power. Some have whispered it before difficult journeys. Others have repeated it during illness, loss, or uncertainty. And over the centuries, countless stories have been told about miracles connected to this mantra. But here is something important to understand. In Buddhism, the greatest miracle was never meant to be something that happens around us. It was always meant to be something that happens within us. A calm mind in the middle of chaos. Compassion in place of anger. Hope where fear once lived. The mantra itself is not believed to magically erase every problem. Instead, it serves as a reminder. Every time it is spoken, it invites us to pause, to breathe, to become aware of our thoughts, and to choose compassion over hatred, wisdom over confusion, and kindness over fear. This is why many Buddhist teachers say that the true purpose of the mantra is not to change fate, but to change the person facing that fate. Because when the mind changes, our actions begin to change. And when our actions change, our lives often follow. Perhaps this explains why these 6 words have survived for more than 1,000 years. Not because they promised an easy life, but because they offered something far more lasting. A different way of seeing ourselves, a different way of seeing others, and a different way of meeting the world. More than 1,500 years have passed since these words first appeared in ancient India. Kingdoms have risen and fallen. Languages have changed. Borders have been redrawn. Yet these 6 simple words continue to be spoken every single day. Not because everyone understands them in exactly the same way, but because they continue to ask the same timeless question. What kind of person do you wish to become? Perhaps that has always been the true meaning of Om Mani Padme Hum. Not a promise that life will become easier, but an invitation to become wiser, kinder, more compassionate. And maybe that is why these 6 ancient words have never disappeared, because the search for peace, understanding, and compassion belongs to every generation and to every human heart.